I feel weird when anyone calls anything in the 90s historical fiction. That just, yeah, a nostalgic fiction. So we're just going to change that. We're going to take this movement from your publisher. We're going to apply it to anything. Welcome to Narratives and Nightcaps, books, beverages, and author conversations. I'm Bree, always ready to dive into new fantasy worlds and take a step back in time.
I'm Megan, part critic, always team physical copy, and forever chasing good thrillers and a great plot twist.
I'm Emily, your resident mood reader who thrives on chaos questions and lively book chats.
And I'm Jordan, equal parts heart, humor, and high-functioning caffeine addict. I come with coffee in hand, wine on standby, and a Gilmore Girls quote for every occasion.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Welcome back to Narratives and Nightcaps. Joining us from Hawaii, she's the best-selling author of historical and contemporary novels set in the islands. Earlier this year, she invited readers to dive into the blue waters of the Shark House. Today, we're excited to explore paradise, the depths of the ocean, and writing with Sara Ackerman. Aloha, Sara!
Aloha.
Aloha, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so sorry I can't say Hawaii as beautiful as you do.
You know, there are a few different ways that people say it because it's evolved from when I was young. People would just say Hawaii, but now people say Hawaii.
Hawaii.
W's are often like pronounced like a V.
For listeners too, could you share a little bit, because you mentioned kind of before we jumped on that you're on the Big Island, right? Is that,
Yeah, which is Hawaii Island.
Hawaii. Yeah, there we go. Well, I think, Sarah, as you know, we mentioned, Bree and I are big ocean creature shark people. So the fact that we get to talk to you directly about the Shark House, literally sharks in the title, we are just so excited to be here and dive in. But I think before we get too far down the rabbit hole of talking about the book and the story and your writing process, we always kick off our episodes with, the book's beverage pairing. So can you share what's your pairing for the Shark House?
Okay, I have this, and this is called Paniolo Pale Ale.
Ooh.
So this is brewed here in Waimea on the Big Island. And a paniolo is a Hawaiian cowboy. And I do love beer. And so this is what I would pair the Shark House with, is the Paniolo Pale Ale from Big Island Brew House.
Oh, I love that. That's so perfect.
It's an amazing, amazing beer. I drink it actually all the time.
I was going to say, I'm going to be in Hawaii. I'm going to work on saying this better. Maui specifically in November. I'm going to have to look for this when I'm there. That sounds so good.
I do know they have it on Oahu. And if not, you'll have to try the Big Swell, which is brewed on Maui.
Well, okay. I'm taking notes.
I was going to say, I love that you're taking notes. I can see you over there writing it down.
Oh, I love it.
Very cool. Well, as Emily just mentioned, we love just marine creatures, the ocean. So very curious, do you have a favorite marine creature as well as a favorite shark?
So it's so hard to pick because I spend a lot of time in the ocean. But right now I'm working on something about whales, and I am just falling more and more in love with humpback whales and all kinds of whales. But so I'm going to have to go with whales for now. I mean, they're just such beautiful, majestic, intelligent creatures.
I echo that. Sarah, I actually am based in Seattle. So orcas and the San Juans and all the orcapods that we have that come through are very near and dear to my heart. They're
amazing.
fantastic.
Well, actually, my book is set up in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah,
there you go. Wonderful place to be.
it is. Yeah.
Well, I have to ask, because on the Shark House, I think you might have answered some of these already, but have you ever been swimming with sharks or seen one in the ocean?
I have. So I've never swam with large sharks, no tiger sharks, no great white sharks. But there are quite a bit of reef sharks around our island, small white tip and black tip reef sharks. And so there's a little bay down south where I go a few times a year. It's an old family friend house. And we had gone there during COVID, when you couldn't leave the house. Everyone's kind of fully on lockdown. You couldn't even go to the beach here. But we were able to go down there and just kind of have live in this little bubble for almost a week. And there are these, they live under a particular rock, so you kind of know where to look for them. And then they'll come out during the day and swim around. And so that is where I first started thinking about like sharks and how amazing they are and misunderstood. And so, yeah, I have been swimming with small sharks, but not the big ones.
Emily, you've swum with sharks as well, right?
I have. So, sorry, I'm a big scuba diver. So a lot of the vacations that we take is scuba diving. And I always get so excited. I hope every dive I see a shark, whether it's like the white tip or the black tip or, nurse shark, something. But they're incredible creatures to see out in their natural habitat. And I completely misunderstood. You phrased it very well, right? That they, to see them just out in the wild is a unique experience for sure.
This is going to sound like such a silly question, but Shark Week just happened, and when this was happening, I was going around like a first grader asking people what their favorite sharks were. So, Sarah and Emily, do you guys have a favorite shark? I just thought this was like a normal thing that everybody, I've had a favorite shark since probably the first grade, and so I thought everybody did that.
So, again, it's a hard question for me to answer, but I'm going to say white shark. I'm just fascinated with these, like the largest apex predator. Just like their grace and their power and yeah, so I'm going to say white shark.
I agree. Mine's a tie. Great white shark and hammerheads. I would love, there's a dive that I don't know how many people have done it, but in Mexico, hammerheads kind of congregate at a certain time of the year on their path, and they school, which is not typical. And so that's on my bucket list to dive when they're schooling like that someday.
That would be a wild experience, but very
Totally.
cool.
Okay, Bree, but you have to share yours now.
Oh, so mine is also a tie between white sharks and thresher sharks.
Okay.
I've been the thresher shark for me. I can picture this book I read in elementary school that went through different types of sharks, and I got to the thresher shark and I immediately thought it's so cute. It has these really cool eyes. Its tail is so impressive. And so I've always had it. I'm fascinated by white sharks, and to take what Sarah was saying about whales too, I think they're so majestic and interesting, and so it's a tie for me as well.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So, Sarah, on a day off, what is your favorite thing to do in Hawaii?
I guess it depends what time of year it is. If there's surf, I love to surf.
Mhm.
But either being in the mountains or being in the ocean, whatever that means, whether it's hiking or going to the waterfall, swimming or surfing.
Would you say is there, given all the time you spent on the water in particular, I'll narrow it down, is there anything that sticks out as like one of your most memorable experiences?
Oftentimes I would have to say it's either probably swimming with dolphins or whales. You know, every single time. And since I was a little girl till now, that's a lot of years. And every till you still get choked up. You're still like in awe. Like, it's amazing. And so we had the dolphins come in this weekend where I was staying down in Kona, and they'll just come swim around you. And so I think that would have to be it. Not just one time, but with every time that they come around. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's so cool. I didn't have quite that magical experience, but I was scalloping recently and had a dolphin swim by. It didn't come up around us or anything, but it swam by quickly. We had that initial moment where we didn't know if it was a dolphin or a shark at first. Uh,
Mhm.
those like few seconds where you
Yeah.
don't quite know based on the dorsal fin, but it was a dolphin and we swam by and then continued on and we continued scalloping.
So cool.
Special. I think anytime you see one is special.
I agree. Well, I'll pivot off of scallops, Brie, but Sarah, do you have a favorite Hawaiian food? Or favorite?
I love haupia, which is like a coconut pudding.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yum.
and it's kind of it's hardened, and so you cut it into a square, and it's so good. Anything coconut, I love.
I'm with you there. Anything coconut, I'm in.
Yeah, so you'll have to have haupia
How
when
Pia?
you're in Maui. Yeah,
I was gonna
I'm
say,
taking notes.
Emily, you have a full
I know.
list
I
of
do.
things.
it's Haupia.
Yeah. I got it. Perfect.
Very cool. I'm so jealous. I'm like, Emily, take me with you. I want to go. I want to go too. Um, well, I loved reading a little bit more about why you got into writing and everything, and hopefully we can get to some of that on the podcast as well later. But what does a typical writing day look like for you?
So it's evolved a little bit over time, not too much. I used to try to write every day, but I realized that just wasn't sustainable. And so I write 5 days a week, and I try to write a couple hundred words before I get up. So early in the morning. And then after that, I'll hang out with my kittens or do yoga, go for a walk. And then I'll do another session. I used to try to write in longer bouts, but now I'll break it up into several shorter pieces throughout the day. And try to get up and move around so I'm not just sitting all day. And then research is usually kind of woven into that. Also, we're usually having to do social media or other authorly things. So, yeah, it's kind of nice because I just, I can work things in to my regular life. I love the flexibility of it.
Definitely. And I think you phrased well on other authorly things. I think one of the things is we, talk to more authors on this podcast. There's a lot more than just writing and research that goes in to having, books that are published. And, there's a whole 360 view between social media and communication and things like that, authorly things encompasses a never ending list.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Oh, but also, so my daily word count it has been 1,000 words a day, but the book I'm working on now I don't have a deadline because this one I don't have under contract. I'm just kind of writing it.
Mhm.
And so I have 700 words a day, which feels really, really nice and manageable to me.
That's got to feel nice, like you're saying, when you can approach it at your speed, maybe, and in your timeline and as the story evolves versus maybe feeling a little bit more pressure.
Yes, deadlines because for a couple years, just the way things worked out, I had changed publishers and I had to write 2 books a year for 2 years in a row. And that was a lot. That was a lot.
That would be intense. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was. So
completely.
kind of right when I finished, I didn't get too much of a break.
Yeah. Oof.
But I love it. So, I still enjoyed it, but I just felt that pressure.
Yeah. That I can understand. Well, I don't know if I want to say the flip side, but maybe Sarah, could you tell us what you've been reading lately? What you've been enjoying?
Yeah, so I started a book club this year because all my friends are so hard to get a hold of, and
Yeah.
um, and it's called the No Pressure Book Club.
I
And
love it.
so I picked all the books, and it's like we meet at my house the last day of the month. Um, Come if you can, don't come if you, it's no pressure. And so the last book we read was the One Day You Were My Husband by Rosie Walsh.
Oh, wow. I haven't read that.
Loved it. My friend loved it. Um, and then everyone else was away. So it was a two-person book club. I also, so I love Charlotte McConaughey, who
Hmm.
is the author of Wild Dark Shore. And I had read Migrations, so I just started reading Once There Were Wolves. And it's amazing. I'm early on into it, but
I loved Wild Dark Shore.
yeah,
Absolutely loved it. I did the audiobook for that one. And
yeah,
other works have been on my TBR list because it's just phenomenal.
the writing is just amazing. She's brilliant.
Yeah. And the audiobook, I'll just put a plug for that just because to hear it read through an audiobook, I just got swept away in
Me
that
too.
story.
That was my favorite audiobook ever.
Me too.
The
Yep.
voices, Dom was just his voice.
Phenomenal.
I was in love with him after listening to it.
Okay,
Yes.
so maybe that's how I squeezed that one in because that one has been on my list for a very long time and I just haven't had a chance to get to it. But maybe it's my next audiobook.
Yeah, it's a
Highly
great.
recommend. Highly
Okay.
recommend.
Well, I want to sort of slowly transition us to the Shark House, but before we do that, I have a general question for the three of us. How do we feel about the 90s being historical fiction?
Well, I mean, it feels weird. To me, it just, that's like right around the corner. It wasn't that long ago. It does not seem like historical fiction at all to me. At
No,
all.
no. I share that it sort of I know Brie, when I saw you were asking that question, I was going, wow, this that's a weird thing to put in a statement together. 90s historical fiction.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they don't go together, but my publisher is calling it nostalgic, not historical.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, I'll
So,
take that. I'll
yeah, I
take
like,
that.
Make that better.
Yes, because I think I share the same sentiments that of you both. I feel weird when anyone calls anything in the 90s historical fiction. That just, yeah, a nostalgic fiction. So we're just going to change that. We're going to take this movement from your publisher. We're going to apply it to anything that is
Yes,
set in the 90s in particular, and we'll see if we can get everybody else on board.
we're with you.
yeah, I mean, to me, I would say for me, the 70s maybe at the, possibly could be historical. Not even the 80s to me doesn't feel
I would
historical.
say I would put
Agreed.
80s with nostalgic
Yeah.
fiction.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. Well, Sarah, let's dive into the Shark House, pun intended. So, for readers who haven't had a chance to get lost in the story just yet, can you just tell us a little bit about the book from your words?
So it's mainly about a marine biologist who travels to the Big Island to investigate a series of deadly shark attacks. And when she gets there, she's kind of drawn into this tragic past of her own um, that involved her father and a white shark. So she stays in this really kind of rustic old beach house and ends up learning a little bit about her own family history. And so it's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of romance, and just a very hint of magical, I would say a little bit of hint of magical realism.
I know we were talking a little bit before the podcast. We're just so enjoyable on so many levels for me. Not just, I think anybody who loves sharks or just cares about our environment and our relationship with the wildlife around us will absolutely love this. But then to the mystery around it, the subplot romance with Luke, and I love that you're now wanting to explore the Pacific Northwest even more. It immediately made me think of Luke too. But I guess we should start with the sharks because you also mentioned it a little bit earlier with your experience swimming with some of them. Why sharks? What was it about sharks specifically that made you think there's a story here?
Like I said, I had been swimming with them, appreciating their beauty, their grace underwater. And also at that time, there had been some fatal shark attacks along this coast where I swim. And so though I was born and raised here, I used to canoe paddle, surf, spend just a lot of time in the ocean, and I would think about sharks, but not too much. And so a lot of these attacks in places like where I go,
Yeah.
it started freaking me out a little bit, and I started getting more paranoid about being in the water with sharks. And so I listened to some interviews, and and it got me thinking, sharks, like what better to write about than sharks? And everybody loves sharks, hates sharks, is fascinated by sharks. Shark Week, I think, is like one of the most popular shows ever. And so I said to my agent, I said, I've got to write a book about sharks.
I think you phrased that so well that in your story you've captured this really interesting tension between like the fear and the fascination, and Luna is forever one of my favorite characters, from the story. But did writing this story change your perception at all, kind of sharks, or why do you think we as people are so obsessed with sharks?
I think they are, they're kind of like the big bad wolf of the ocean that we've always been afraid of because they do kill people. People that go in the ocean do get killed by sharks, and it's been ever since the beginning of time, sharks are around. And I think that but I did learn. So I just knew about them as a kid growing up in Hawaii. I hadn't ever studied them or researched them. So I think when I was writing this book, I had to watch documentaries and read about sharks and, interview people. And it was just, I learned a ton. But also, what was sad to me was how the history of Hawaii and how they had been culling the sharks. And, I think 5,000 tiger sharks had been killed. And so it was this whole learning process for me. Yeah, and I'm really happy that I was able to write this book.
You really captured a collision between science, tourism, the local communities, and then our natural world and the oceans there. You're talking about the research and all the things that you learned. Was there anything that really surprised you? Or you mentioned that some of your research was like slightly terrifying. Maybe it was what you learned about those tiger sharks, but what was something you learned, or did it really change how you view your time on the water?
Slightly terrifying, I think, because I was just watching so many videos. And so when I would go swimming, in my mind, I could just see sharks, come like I was constantly like, okay, there's going to be a giant shark coming out of the blue towards me at any moment. So that was terrifying. And I think it was just because they were always on my mind. So even when I went in the water, I'm like constantly thinking about them. But yeah, I was really surprised to learn about all the shark culling. I didn't know how much we had done here. Surprised to learn that white sharks really are not out to kill people. They're just out there, when they see something, they test it with a bite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's often just a bite and then they'll leave. So they're not out there hunting us. I think tiger sharks are a little more indiscriminate,
Mm-hmm.
and they are a little more likely to eat a more varied diet, which is why, most of the attacks here in Hawaii are tiger sharks. So it's kind of like a risk thing. Like you just enter the water knowing that
Yeah.
they're out there and it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also take precautions in where you go, like murky water, deep water, going if you're going in the late or in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are things you can do to protect yourself or as much as possible.
Or lower the risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true.
Emily, how do you feel about that? Like as a diver, because I know living in Florida, I get questioned a lot of the time by people that don't live here. Because like I said, we
Yeah.
go scalloping, we do stuff. I mean, we were at the beach this past
Mhm.
weekend, we swim all the time. I'm curious, like, what do people say to you as a diver too?
It's interesting. For me personally, I don't like night dives or like evening dives. Like Sarah, you were saying, like I tend to do morning or like middle of the day. So I just avoid the time when a lot of predators come out. I know people like to dive during that time. That's just not me. So I kind of follow some of those same precautions. Or if we are going, like I have done a shark feeding dive, but that was a very intentional dive. So we had more dive masters. It was the middle of the day. Like there were precautions that we took that you don't normally take on a dive when you're going into that kind of an environment. So I just echo Sarah what you were saying is you're just cognizant and do things to lower the risk and then know what you're going into, you know.
So from what I gather,
Yeah.
scuba divers are less likely than people on the surface
Hmm.
to be bitten by a shark. That's
Yeah.
just what I believe to be true.
I think it's all the bubbles I've heard. Like like when you're breathing out in the tank and everything, the air in the bubbles, it's loud underwater. Like you don't look like a fish. It's it's
Could see that the
you
bubbles
know.
would kind of intimidate them, but also the eye contact, right? Because
Hmm.
Yeah.
eye contact is really important.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're scuba diving, you're down there with them, and you can have the eye contact versus just surfing. You have no idea they're underneath you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard is how if you ever see one, the eye contact is so important, which
Hmm.
too is so interesting to me. It's just such a sign of intelligence, in my opinion,
Hmm.
of them as a species, which is
Yeah.
really cool. But that eye contact is very important. Much different from surfing or
Yeah.
paddleboarding or scalloping, and you can't see them.
Yeah. A little different.
I have to ask, what is scalloping? So you're
Oh,
hunting for scallops? Or what is
yeah,
scallop?
they're the little like scallops that you eat that are in the
Hmm.
shells.
Uh-huh.
Um, so different from the scallops that are off of Emily's coast. By me, we have bay scallops. So there's a typically a short window every year that is scallop season, and they are shells with the little scallop inside of it, and you go out and you pick them up. I'm like, I'll pull up a picture and
So
try to
you're like
show.
swimming and diving down for them, or are they in
Yep.
like shallows? Okay.
So it depends, and it depends on the tides too. I've gone out before where we've been in 6 to 8 feet of water, and some people snorkel, some people you have to dive down to get them, and they're often in the grass, so you'll have to move the grass around a little bit. Um, I prefer when we go when the water is about 5-ish feet so that I can stand.
Yeah.
I have a very hard. It is so exhausting when you're doing that and you have to keep diving down and searching for them. So I prefer that. I'm just gonna say we just went, so I don't know if this will show. This is them.
Okay. Oh,
So
that must be so fun, like treasure hunting.
it
Yeah.
is this year we saw baby starfish.
How
Oh,
cool.
that's so cute. So
It
little.
was so tiny. It was so little. So we put that back. But yeah, but that's scalloping around here. It's a very big deal in Florida when scallop season opens.
Like, I had no idea it was such a big deal, Brie. It's like shrimping season up here. We have like 2 days, and like that's the only time all year. It's crazy.
It's
Wow, just cute.
Just to so people will like, and it starts at a certain time. So like on the coast, they'll bring their boat out and be like poised over the water, with the traps, and then like 8 a.m., like the time will happen, and they'll like drop their pots because you only have a very finite window.
that's so I can't even imagine how busy that would be.
Very busy. And then you're like pulling them in, dumping them, putting them back because you only have like certain time. But it's kind of fun. It's all part of the adventure, with everything. But anyway, well, Sarah, I beyond sharks. I think we could keep going on these, but beyond sharks, Dr. Minnow Gray, right, is really the heart of the story, as you were describing for the Shark House. And going from exploring the sexism she experiences in her field in the book, complicated family dynamics. There's a grief element, like you kind of hinted at, right, in the story. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe what you learned from Minnow while writing the story, or how you approached, Minnow as a character?
Because I never know exactly where my characters come from, they just
Hmm.
sort of appear after brainstorming and, evolve out of my subconscious. I'm not sure, but um, she was somebody that I enjoyed writing because it was like she was so brave and courageous, way more than I am, right? So I enjoy being able to write about these characters that really are somewhat fearless or more courageous than I am. And but I do have that love for the nature, and wanting to protect and save these creatures and stuff. So I enjoy being able to use their education and their knowledge to be able to do that in a book.
Her courage was so inspiring. It just made me think a lot about how like I want to approach a lot of the topics that she has to confront or handle in her specific space. It was really really inspiring, just her entire demeanor, even in the dialogue and all that she has, was I really, really enjoyed her as a character. You also had some wonderful side characters. So I'm curious, do you have a favorite?
I kind of liked, I liked Woody, but that's something about his brother, Cliff,
Hmm.
who was a little bit more unpredictable, I would say. Who reminds me of people, maybe not people I know, but a friend's brother, or, people that you live on this island, and they're just really good people, but they also can be impulsive, and so he was a little more complicated than his brother Woody, and I enjoyed writing about him too. He became a favorite of mine.
That was also such a fun dynamic between the brothers and the house, and that just was. See, there's a little bit of everything in the story, and it made it fun to read. I'm curious. Last question, kind of on the story. Why was and I'm going to butcher this, Koala Coast? Why was that Thank you. Yes. Why was that space, and specifically like in the '90s, the right place, the right time? Did that come, out of your research?
Yes, so because there is Kalaimano, which is Shark Point in
Okay.
that area, for real, and so
Yeah.
that is there. It's known as a place. The Hawaiians knew it as a place where there were a lot of tiger sharks,
Okay.
and so that's why I chose to set it there. And along there was where a guy, I don't know, it might have been more 5, 6, 7 years ago, who did lose part of his leg, but he survived. His story was a little bit of what inspired Angela's situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was why I chose that coastline. And then in the 90s, it seemed like a turning point for kind of shark and conservation.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
so at that point, I think you know, you couldn't hunt great whites on the mainland, but in Hawaii, I don't think it wasn't, shark hunting wasn't illegal at that point. So it was
Hmm.
sort of in between
Sure.
time of change.
Interesting.
That is interesting. That makes a lot of sense now too,
Hmm.
because I was very curious too why the 90s in particular. You're just making me think too. So you have a Shark Point, we have a Shark Island down in
Yeah.
the Keys too. I know that that's one. It's been a long time since I was down there, but they also have that too, and there are a lot of sharks down there. We, but that's where when we went snorkeling off of Key West, we had a shark swim up underneath us.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it was just a black tip reef shark. Um, one of the smaller ones too, but initially one of those moments where you're not expecting it because you don't see it coming and it comes up below you and behind you. But those are also really common, especially on the Atlantic. I'm pointing like you guys know where I'm at. I'm like, it's over there. There's a huge blacktip migration that happens along there every year. So that was when we used to live in Boca. Like you don't really get in the water when that's happening because there are thousands and
Oh,
thousands of blacktip sharks that migrate along there. Yeah, but it's very, very cool.
well, now I've
Well,
added two spots, sorry, to my future scuba diving endeavors.
Well, yes, Emily. I know because I know you mentioned a couple of different spots, but I thought about you. There are a lot of people that dive and swim with sharks off of Jupiter, Florida.
I've
That
heard.
is
Yes.
it's a really big thing there. So if you ever come, let me
Here
know.
we
I'll
are.
meet you over there. We amongst the four of us, Emily and I have said that we will be the ones we'll do something. We'll go diving, we'll do I don't know. We'll do something.
Something.
Well, you have had an incredible career as an author. I believe you're going to hit 10 books with your next one coming out as right, which is,
No, I can't
um,
believe it.
Congratulations.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
thank
V-
you.
Well, can you share a little bit? I know you've talked about it on your website, why you started writing back in 2012, but what inspired you initially?
I have a particular memory of finishing the book Prodigal Summer by Barbara Kingsolver and really thinking like I would just love to be able to do that. I don't know that I'll ever be able to write a book quite like Barbara Kingsolver, but it lit something inside of me, and it was still a long time after that before I actually started writing, just when things kind of fell into place in my life time wise. But I've always loved writing. I've always loved reading. I wrote poetry for decades and would always create poem books at Christmas for my family and friends. And then so finally, when I had the time, I just sat down and started writing a book. And I have three unpublished novels before my first one. So yeah, it was just like a long lifetime dream, but I hadn't known, I wasn't like the kid that was like, or, college student that's like, okay, I'm going to write a novel. It happened a little bit later.
Well, I have to ask, so you mentioned you have three that are not published before you had your first. Do you think you'd go back and revisit those three
I
or?
would like to, one of them has a bit of the shark house in it. It wasn't about sharks,
Mhm.
but so probably not that one. I love the stories of those books. I think
Yeah,
the writing was not, I had to learn how to write well enough to get a book deal, and so that's kind of where what those served. Um, One of them I do think about revisiting, and
yeah.
I have another book that's unpublished I wrote in the middle of these
Oh, wow.
that I really do want to publish, and I might self-publish it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Very
Exciting.
cool. What today now, and with all of this experience, what do you love most about writing?
Yeah, I love the part. So as when you're reading, you love all the surprises. What's going to happen next, what's going to
Hmm.
happen, and when you're writing, it's the same way because I do have an outline and a synopsis, but it's it's a couple pages, maybe 7 pages at the most, and then there's so many surprises that happen when you're writing, so it's almost like the same thing where I'm writing to uncover the story, and I'm always encountering surprises along the way, and so for me that's really fun. It's just it's like you're carving out a story kind of that's already there, and you're
Yeah,
carving out what's around it, and then what's left is the story. Yeah,
that's fun.
it's hard to explain.
It, I think we've heard that, sentiment too. It's like you don't really know, like you said, where your characters may go. They kind of surprise you. You're like, oh, I didn't think about this. And, that's a choose your own adventure kind of, way to explore. But that's amazing. Well, Sarah, I want to also mention that coming up in March, you have a new story that's going to be released, right? Called The Volcano Keeper. Can you tell us a little bit what this one's about?
So again, we have a female lead character scientist. She's a volcanologist, and she comes to the Big Island kind of on the heels of a tragedy in the field, and she's not really sure she can get back to the job, but she comes to Hawaii. And her grandmother had disappeared 40 years prior during the eruption of Mauna Loa and during World War II. And so she's here to kind of try to rebuild her life, but also uncover what happened, the mystery of what happened to her grandmother during the war. As Mauna Loa is sort of, there's unrest, and Mauna Loa might
Yeah.
be erupting.
It sounds like Mauna Loa is its own character in this story. This sounds fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one.
Oh,
It's been fun. Well, it's been especially fun because Kilauea has been erupting for the last year and a half, off and on every week or two,
Oh,
with
wow.
these 1,700-foot fountains that I've never seen in my lifetime. And it's just been this regular thing, and you've never seen anything like it. It's just amazing. And so to be able to experience that was also really helpful in writing this book.
that's so cool. Sorry, I'm just like
Yeah.
mind blown because I can't
It
even
is. I mean, I have
imagine.
to say that when I went last year for the first time, when it was fountaining, it was like one of the best days of my life. It was so amazing. So I always tell people, if you're here, you got to try at least get over there for the next year.
Yeah. That would be, I just can't even imagine. I mean, unbelievable to
It's
see
very
in person.
surreal.
Yeah.
It's loud, it's like the earth is just roaring, and it's warm and hot and just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Was that experience, timing wise, probably not, but what was the inspiration behind this story?
I had always, ever since, so I never had seen Mauna Loa erupt. It's usually Kilauea, which is right next to Mauna Loa, kind of below
Hmm.
it, that's been erupting. And it erupted in 84, and I was on Oahu. So when I came here back here in 2015, so in 2022, I think, it erupted. And it was amazing, it was just so exciting. And then at that point, I was like, I really need to write another
Yeah.
erupt, because I do have a book set at the volcano, but that's a World War II story. And so I thought I want to write a book really centered around the volcano.
It's so just incredible. I've done years ago tours of Haleakala when we've been to Maui previously, but that's more a dormant volcano, right? You don't see the 1,700 foot spout of fire coming up out of the earth. You're more walking, tunnels that are clearly cooled and safe, and but even seeing Haleakala in all of its glory and little bit of dormancy is awe-inspiring. I can only imagine, seeing then on the Big Island the actual fire out of the earth. That's unbelievable.
It is. It really is. There's no words. You just have to experience it.
Yeah.
But I try in my book.
Well,
I
I
love
was
it.
just gonna say, I mean, the Shark House was so immersive and so visual too that everything you're saying about the Volcano Keeper, I feel like you're gonna transport us there. And that for me, who's never experienced anything like that, I feel like I'm going to be able to see it too. So I can't wait for that.
I think you will. Hopefully, if you felt
Yeah,
like that in the Shark House, I think you will in the Volcano Keeper.
we're in.
Awesome. Yes, we're in.
Yay.
Well, for everyone too that is such a fan now, where is the best place for them to connect with you online?
I'm mostly on Instagram, Sara Ackerman Books. I started a Substack, which is mainly just a newsletter, so it goes out every month or couple months. And I am also on Facebook at Ackerman Books, I think. And my website is Ackerman Books as well. So, but if you really want to kind of get a flavor of my books and life in Hawaii, I think Instagram is the best place.
And I will just plug too for other book clubs out there. You have some amazing like book club files for
Yeah.
people on your website, which are amazing. So definitely check those out too if the Shark House or any of Sarah's other books are a part of your upcoming book clubs. Sara, thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about the Shark House, your love for Hawaii and writing, and for just crafting such incredible words that show what Emily mentioned earlier is such a delicate balance of humans and our relationship with and our respect for the environment and the wildlife that surrounds us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I love talking with other fellow shark lovers, so I appreciate it.
Of course.
Cheers to that. Cheers to the sharks.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening. The Narratives and Nightcaps podcast is a production of The Craft Co. with intro music created by Remington Haynes.
Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow at Narratives and Nightcaps on Instagram or visit our website, narrativesandnightcaps.com.
Sign up for our newsletter to always know what we're reading next, which authors are joining us on the show, and for extra bookish and beverage info.
Connect with our additional co-hosts, Jordan and Emily, as well.
You can find me on Instagram at Cozy Reads and Sips.
And you can find me on Instagram at books.bottles.
Cheers!
Cheers!